Very good Friday to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to today's European Outlook for the 27th of December, rapidly approaching the end of December and the year of 2024. Before we continue with the video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to look at the big broad picture and the prospects of change as we move towards the new year. We see the vertical cross section of the Arctic atmosphere, and you can see that we had this strong blocking during the mid to latter half of the autumn. Then as we moved into the early winter season, we've seen cooling taking place in the upper levels of 10 millibars. That has now been drifting down through the column, and we are seeing quite a strong polar vortex as a result, the record strong mean zonal winds, and we have a core temperature that is actually projected to drop close to minus 100 C as we move into early January. But there is a lot of uncertainty with regards to the fact that we're going to see the Arctic oscillation likely going negative. That means we're going to build pressure within the Arctic troposphere. Therefore, we're going to start to see some Rossby wave break through the upper levels of the stratosphere and create a warming. So we've got quite a confliction. We've got a strengthening of the PV, but yet we've got a projected weakening of the PV as we step into 2025 as well. Now, the signal is for something colder as we move into the new year as well. We have got a little bit of back and forth in the models. Some models are indicating firmer cold, other models backing off somewhat as well. But I'm still confident that the phase 7 of the Magellan oscillation is going to do its work, and we will see the response. This is the projection, by the way, out to Friday, 3rd of January. So this is a week from now. Long way off, obviously. But look at the core temperature. We've got this warming taking place over the Eurasia side of the pole. We are seeing displacement. We are seeing the core shift into the North Atlantic, Greenland, Iceland. And right within that core that's essentially centered over southern Greenland and the North Atlantic, the pressure, or the temperature, should I say, is down to minus 98 Celsius. That would be record cold temperatures within the 10 millibar level over the pole. So quite a lot of interesting things going on. If we go back to the current period, we've got the core temperatures around minus 90, generally over Northern Europe. We've got another core of cold over Northern North America. Play through the loop here, and you can see this kind of stretching, this wobbling of the polar vortex here. And the reasons why that's happening is that we're going to start to see the expansion of the troposphere. Therefore, it's going to create this warming at 10 millibars. You can see it here. Continue to play through this loop, and you can see very strong warming showing up here over Eurasia as we move towards the end of week 1, beginning of week 2 of January. Now, I showed you this in yesterday's video. Actually, the possibility of a bit of a split starting to show up in the modelling here. This model is going to go back and forward here, but there is certainly, the take home from this is there's something putting pressure on the polar vortex as we move towards the end of week 1 into week 2 of January here. What implications this has down in the lower portions of the atmosphere still remains to be seen, but a very intriguing latter half of the run here off the GFS. When you go back to here and now, play through, you can see the level of warming here. This is the Rossby wave breaking, and this is likely due to that strengthening of the pressure over the Arctic region here. If we look at the Magellan oscillation real quick, you can see here, if we go back to the earlier stages here, so this is playing through. The greens represent rising motion, the oranges represent sinking motion. Play through, and we do have some upward motion over the phases of 4 and 5 at the moment here. Plenty of widespread sinking over the Indian Ocean. We've also got some rising there over the Americas and the Atlantic basin here. And this is as we move towards the beginning of the new year. We're starting to see some rising motion now showing up over the North Pacific here. We've also got it over parts of the South America in particular and over the Atlantic. But it's a relatively weak signal. This is off the GFS model here. So it's going to be interesting to see how much amplitude this phase 7. Now, we're expecting to see a phase 7 of the MJO. How amplified that is remains to be seen. The higher the amplitude of the phase 7, the stronger the influence that may have. Now, the Arctic Oscillation and the North Atlantic Oscillation is expected to go negative, and therefore we expect to see the response. So that is the reason why we're going to start to see this sharp deceleration in the mean zonal winds. If you look at the mean zonal winds real quick, you can see that that is expected to take place. This is off the ECM model. We're going from record strong to around average, even slightly below average. But it's a sharp drop-off that is likely due to the increased blocking as pressure builds over the Arctic region that creates that frictional drag. If you look at this tweet here by Franz, basically it shows the cross-section, the vertical cross-section over the northern latitudes here, and we've got this cold temperature generally from 50 millibars up to the 1 millibar. So you've got a very cold mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. You've got the blocking underneath represented in these kind of orangey colors. Now the representation shows that we go towards the current period, and we've got quite low heights, anywhere from the surface all the way up to the very top of the atmosphere here. But as we go towards the New Year period and beyond, you notice here anywhere from 1,000 millibars, which is the surface, all the way up close to 50 millibars, we're seeing the blocking return to this level of the atmosphere, and that then propagates up into the mid and upper levels of the stratosphere and creates that friction, creates that warming. How much warming, how much influence does this blocking within the lower troposphere into the stratosphere, how much does that have in terms of influence? All remains open to question, but certainly it's very interesting nonetheless what's going on. This is a look at the 10 millibar level temperature anomalies over the Arctic region. This is off the ECMWF. So week 1, this is Monday 30th of December through Monday 6th of January. You can see here quite a lot of cold north portions of the Atlantic, and also over northern Asia as well. But then as we play through here into week 2, you can start to see we've got that warming over the Eurasia side of the pole. We've got the colder than average temperatures over the anywhere from Asia across the top into North America, into the North Atlantic. Then as we move into the following week, we're seeing that warming progress round, forcing the PV to then get forced down towards the North Atlantic and Europe. And then as we move even further on, this is now Monday the 20th of January through the 27th of January, we're seeing quite a lot of warm anomalies now starting to show up as well. So there is definitely cross-model agreement that we're going to see this disruption of the polar vortex, but exactly how much influence this actually has on surface weather, it still remains very much unknown at this moment in time. So looking back towards what's going on at the moment here, we do have colder temperatures on the way. We've got fairly settled conditions at the moment. These are the current temperatures across Europe. So, cool-ish. But for the end of January, the end of December, it's nothing to write home about, really. Looking at the UK temperatures at the time of recording, and you can see this is how it's looking. So we've got generally single-figure temperatures. A couple of spots close to the freezing mark through the Midlands, for example. Slightly milder across the south coast, and also up towards the north coast, we're sitting on 5 and 6 Celsius, even 7 Celsius in a few spots. We've got an 8 in Inverbervie, we've got a 9 through the central belt. So generally speaking, we're not particularly cold by this stage in December, and for this time of night, which is the back of 6 p.m. when the sun has set. It's been quite a foggy day here, very, very little in the way of wind, and the atmosphere has been rather stagnant, to say the least. These are the temperature anomalies as of Friday today, 27th of December, warmer than average across the majority of Europe, as can be seen here. Play through this loop, there's the cold air gathering as we start to see higher pressure to the west, lower pressure to the east, and the cold is kind of lingering not that far to the north of the British Isles, but an area of low pressure that deepens. Exact position and track of that low will be critical. The further north it is, the more you're in the warmer air, more in the way of rain. The further south that low tracks, the greater the chance that you have some snow on this northern flank. But play through this loop, you can see that we've got this little surge of slightly milder into Halloween, Hogmanay, Tuesday, 31st of December. That area of low pressure then transits eastwards, and then it opens the door to something colder diving south over UK and Ireland. And then as we progress through the first few days of January and 2025, we've got some fairly colder seen by the GFS model into the middle and second half of next weekend. Continue to play through. You see the cold that lingers on. This is all the way out to the end of week 1 and the beginning of week 2 of January. And certainly it looks as if the cold tries to linger on for a fair little bit here. Looking at the 500 millibar geopotential anomalies here, and you can see that we've got high pressure in control at the moment. There's the trough and cold air just to the north of the British Isles, as can be seen. Continue to play through this here. There's that area of low pressure that's riding the jet stream, crosses the northern UK, and then as heights build over the North Atlantic up towards the Baffin Straits and Greenland, we've got that northerly airflow coming down, and it looks as if it's going to kind of maintain this synoptic setup here with the pressure strong over the North Atlantic and Greenland, negative heights over Europe here, and we continue to see this dislodge of Arctic air into the western side of Europe. It continues to play all the way through to the end of the week, and you can see a very strong negative NAO signal here with strong positives up towards Iceland and Greenland and negatives down towards the Azores. So we're flipping the pattern on its head from what we've seen during the final stages of the last week or two here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pattern is all going to evolve. Let's have a real quick look at let's actually look at the GFS version of the overview chart here and see what it's showing with regards to what we can expect. So obviously we've got this deepening area of low pressure that moves through during the early portions of next week. We've got a frontal system that's essentially draped across the northern half of the UK. There's the high to the south, low to the north. So we're in that positive NAO signal at the moment here. But notice the cold gathering to the north. But the frontal boundary over northern UK means that we're still in the milder air. Put on the 850 chart here, and you can see that quite clearly that the cold air is generally to the north of the British Isles. Not overly mild across UK, but we're generally milder compared to what we've got further north. Back to the overview chart of the GFS, and you can see as we play through, frontal system kind of just drifts a little bit further south. Again, we're still talking Sunday, Monday of next week, so we're only on Friday. We've still got a few days to iron out the exact position of initially the boundary, but also that area of low pressure. Exactly where that low tracks is going to be quite critical. Now we've got, according to the GFS anyway, enough cold air kind of just managing to kind of drift southwards that moisture runs into that cold air, and we see heavy snowfall breaking out. But you know it's generally north of the central belt according to the GFS model. That's the first system that moves through. Then we've got a secondary area of low pressure that looks as if it's taken a reasonably northerly track, which means that the snow is generally north of the mainland. We've got heavy rainfall. That low then moves eastwards, and as it does so, it then opens the door to colder air coming down from the north. So we've got a 1036 high over the central North Atlantic, area of low pressure at 971 millibars. So it continues to deepen as it exits and pulls away from the UK. Then we're in that northerly flow. Continue to play through. You notice that we maintain this chillier theme with northerly air continuing to drive southwards across UK and Ireland here. It looks as if wintry showers aboard that northerly flow, quite convective in nature as well. If we look at the 850s of the same model, we're in some fairly bona fide cold air, in fact. And as we continue to play through, you notice here that this cold really kind of holds ground as we progress through a fairly lengthy period of time. Then the GFS sees something slightly milder moving in towards Saturday, 11th of January. This is all the way out to the middle of January, so very, very far out, obviously. But some very cold air is seen by the GFS model to drift southward. So we'll play through the loop. Quick summary again, seeing these areas of low pressure drives eastwards across generally the northern UK, so a little in the way of snow here, and then we can see the deepest area of low pressure. The final low moves eastwards, and then it opens the floodgates to Arctic air. Let's have a quick look at the ECM model here and see what it's showing with regards to this same solution. So back to the overview chart, and you can see back to the current period. We've got this boundary across northern British Isles at the moment. Then we see, as we play through into the early portions of next week, the final days of December and 2024, that feature then runs eastwards across the top. Another system follows it, and it looks as if we've got a slightly different scenario here where low pressure is kind of not necessarily progressing particularly well. But look at this here for Wednesday. So this is the ECM versus the GFS. Very different outcome. You notice that low pressure kind of lingers more over the north or northwest of the British Isles. But look at the pressure. It's now got a bomb cyclone at 948 millibars west of the British Isles. That would keep the cold air to the north and west. We're still in relatively mild air. That feature then moves through. It kind of somewhat fills as it progresses eastwards. Then it opens the floodgates to colder air. So we're, like the GFS, is still indicating the cold flow in from the north. Continue to play through. And then it looks as if we've got this setup here, generally with the higher pressure to the south. Look at the 850 temperatures and see what it's indicating real quick. And are we in particularly cold air? No, we're not. So this is the discrepancy in the models here, and the finer details are going to be very important to continue following. So the ECMWF model is quite different to the GFS in terms of the cold is much shorter lived compared to the GFS model. So what is right? That is going to be the question, and it'll be interesting to see as we go through the next few days in terms of these models to start to kind of close in and have a similarity, or do they maintain this quite divided opinion in terms of the solution? Let's have a zoomed in look at the west of Europe, northwestern Europe, and see what the snow projections are seen by the model here. So let's have a quick look at can I find the snow depth chart? So this is the here and now, nothing to speak about in terms of snow. Then as we move towards the end of the weekend and beginning of next week here, we've got some fairly significant snow totals building up. Central Highland, really from about Dalwhinnie northwards, got some significant snow associated with that area of low pressure. Continue to play through. The snow then migrates a little bit further north. It looks as if it's quite a snowy January 1st. Anywhere from central Scotland northwards here, nothing across England and Wales and Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, as can be seen here. Continue to play through. And is it indicating anything significant? No, it actually loses a lot of the snow according to the ECMWF run as we move into the 2nd through the 4th of January, for example. We don't see as much snow. Look at Europe, it's starting to turn quite white, as can be seen. Let's look at the GFS model and see what it's indicating. I would imagine it's slightly different to ECM. Play through the loop here, and the central, the Alps, for example, is seeing some significant snow, as well as the Balkan region. There's the snow starting to kind of lay down as we move towards the Hogmanay New Year period. Nowhere near as bullish as the ECMWF, but notice here that it progresses a little bit further south with the GFS compared to the ECMWF, and then it loses the snow. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch this. Look at Europe again, Central Europe, seeing some significant amounts of snow. Really, Northern UK is going to see some decent snow according to the GFS run. So, yep, it's going to be worth keeping a close eye on. Let's have a very quick look at the arpegge model and see what it's indicating. So, again, back to the current period. Play through the loop as we move towards the back half of the weekend. Is it indicating anything significant? This is the early hours through the course of Sunday. Not really showing up until the early portions of Monday next week. Then the arpegge model is starting to see some snow across the north. It starts to then expand across the majority of, particularly Highland Scotland. So generally north of the central belt, we're seeing the snow lay down reasonably well. Then we get a little bit further south into the north of England as we move towards the end of the Hogmanay period. So it looks as if it's going to turn quite cold as we move towards Hogmanay and New Year's Day. Like I said in yesterday's video, polar opposite to the beginning of Christmas Day, where we had record warm starts in Scotland and Northern Ireland, and then temperatures in the 14 range during Christmas Day itself. So it was a very mild Christmas. It could be quite the opposite as we move towards the New Year period. but it's all about the details with regards to this cold. How long does it linger? Does it get washed out in the newer model runs, for example, this cold theme, or will the models firm up more with this cold signal? This is all questions to be asked, and only time will answer those questions. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Hope you're enjoying the content here in the channel. A massive thank you to everybody's support over the past 12 months. The channel continues to steadily grow, and it's only through yous that is the case. Also, a massive thank you for recent super thanks. A few kind donations. I still have to acknowledge those, so bear with. I will get to you and thank you personally in the not so distant future, so stay tuned for that. And a massive thank you once again to everybody for their kind words and support over the past year. So stay tuned. I'll be back tomorrow with more, and there also will be the live stream this upcoming Sunday as well. I will leave a link in the description below for that as well. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening. Bye for now.